Welcome to Triggers and Spiritual Medicine, a community built and grassroots based podcast that addresses the root issues and triggers at the intersection of our health, systems of oppression, and cultural conditioning. Together, we explore what truly is ailing us as human beings in today's world. This space is non commercialized, no advertising dollars are involved because our mission is clear to dive deep into the heart of our collective struggles and discover the spiritual medicine that can heal us personally, within our families, our communities, and the collective. Each month, we sit down with extraordinary guests who have shared their wisdom and offer at least 3 actionable steps to help you on your journey. This is more than just a conversation, it's a call to action, a chance to tap into the healing tools we all need to move forward as a species. We explore root systems and causes through stories of healing and recovery from addiction, cancer, chronic illness, domestic abuse, and more. We learn from wisdom keepers and lineage holders of sacred traditions, unraveling the mysteries that have survived for millennia, and examining why, in Western societies, we are sicker than ever before. You'll hear stories from people who have used spiritual medicine in their healing journey, whether through meditation, Reiki, expressive arts, yoga, plants, or by unpacking religious indoctrination, persecution, or decolonizing mental constructs. If you believe in our mission, please subscribe and support our podcast by commenting, engaging, and sharing it with others. You can also become a Patreon member to help support our domestic violence community and sacred activist work. Memberships start for free, or you can join for just $5 a month to gain insider information, exclusive content, and more. Whether you're a healer, a seeker, or simply curious, you're just in the right place. So let's journey together. Welcome to the next episode of Triggers in Spiritual Medicine. My name is Laura from Healing with Spirit, Laura Bonetzky-Gaffney. Note the name change just in case you Google search Laura Joseph. It was changed last month, but we are actually in June. We are in the next episode of Triggers in Spiritual Medicine, and I am your host. This month, we are going to be talking about where we are at collectively, how do we discern, and how do we move forward in all this chaos. So this is what we're going to talk about, the sacred pause and the discernment and what I feel is like the age of chaos, right? And how do we move through it? So you're going to learn some tools. You're going to learn how to regulate that nervous system. You're going to learn empowered action. And, in a time of overwhelm, we are in some times that we haven't seen for thousands of years. This is evolutionary. And, it's interesting because I'm going to start off with just a kind of like a little story before we go into it, because I look at my journey and where I've been, and I've written 2 books on this if you want to learn more or listen to prior episodes for more details. But growing up with a lot of abuse, being silenced, being told and felt like, I had to be an overachiever. And I was also the oldest. So, I was told that I could be equal to man, only to find out that when I was 26 and I got married, had 3 beautiful children. And when I went to leave for divorce, due to domestic violence and what we now know as coercive control and post-separation abuse and litigation abuse, I realized that I wasn't equal to man. Is when I faced family court. And so I went through 20 years, I feel, of an initiation to bring me to this point to share a lot of what I've learned. This is not something I did over the pandemic. I'm a multi-generational, multidisciplinary healer and intuitive with over 20 years professional experience. And, I feel like all those hard things, everything, by the way, from being incarcerated without ever being arrested, without ever being accused of a crime, and my right to a lawyer was denied. And it was a 30-day sentence plus 6 months of criminal court community service, which prevented me from working by a family court judge to punish me for speaking truth to power and seeking freedom for me and my children and liberation, because that was what I was taught that I was able to do, and only to find out that it wasn't true. And so it brings me to where we're at. A lot of people are facing this like dark, what we call like the dark night of the soul. There's like, oh my God, there's all this chaos that's around us, and uncertainty, and between what's happening with the climate and all these stressors. And the difference between like our ancestors to where we are today is our ancestors were connected to the land. They were connected to the elements. They moved with them. They also migrated. They didn't stay stationary for the most part. And we have gotten, as a culture, as a society, very disconnected. As I shared on some social media recently about a new neighbor who bought a house. And I loved this house. It was a cute little tiny house, but it had probably one of the most beautiful yards, had two mature dogwood trees and a magnolia tree that was at least 30 years old, and another 3 or 4, I believe, trees. Some of them looked like they were probably about 100 years old, at least, if not more. And they came in with a bulldozer and cranes and chainsaws and cut everything down. Every shrub, every tree, every plant. If you look over there, it is nothing but dirt. They ripped out everything to build a 3-story decker with no life around it. And that hurts. So that it's a reflection of our society of just take, monopolize, get bigger, 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 more stuff. And I want to say, or even ask you, like, what have you learned this year? Let's start there. Like, what have you learned? What have you been able to discern? All these aesthetics, all these things, all the things, all the things, has that made your life better? Our ancestors knew how to work together as a community because everybody benefited. The capitalist society only benefits the 1%, the billionaire class. And the billionaire class has been very good over the last few hundred years at stripping the one safety net we had, and that was community. So the theme here that I want you to remember is we are not broken. We're not broken. We are simply overstimulated, exhausted, and disconnected from our compass. If we want to fix what's happening in our world, whether it's climate, whether it's environment, whether it's animals, whether it's domestic violence, or immigration, or politics, whatever it is, we have to master the sacred pause to know what actions to take. We cannot be working as an indentured servant for the companies that we work with to make them wealthy while we go home depleted to our families. What is happening right now in the collective, like I said before, we are overstimulated, we are exhausted, and we are very dysregulated. Too much input, too many decisions, too much stuff thrown at the wall, not enough space to land. And what this brings to mind is something that I see abusers do every time in family court to a victim of domestic violence who is seeking freedom or trying to protect their children from further abuse. And that is, they will throw a bunch of crap at the wall without due process, without proper processing or procedure. And that is to throw the judge, the system, the victim, all into a defensive mode, kind of like where we're at right now, right? And when we do that, when they do that, then the focus goes on them and not on the real issue that you're there in court, which is your safety, your freedom, and the safety and freedom of your children to be free from abuse and harm. And yet, what we're seeing today in our political system is a lot of focus on one man who really has mastered for 70 something years the art of litigation abuse and Darvo tactics, always playing the victim and never taking responsibility. But we have a lot more sinister things here. So to go back to us and where we are at, what I kept feeling as I was preparing to record today was that we are like that toddler. We are lashing out. We can't rest. Our nervous systems are maxed. And I want to call it's like we're having spiritual tantrums. And it may show up as things like projection, anxiety spirals, performative healing. I see a lot of cosplay and a lot of performative stuff, especially in the spiritual world, and a lot of pretend. And you cannot do that and call it healing when you're so focused on the aesthetics and not on the medicine. That is more spiritual bypassing and performative work. It is not doing the real medicine. I can go in this shirt and go down to the water and say prayers because my focus is on the medicine. It is not focused on how I look and do I look the part. And that's some of the things that we have to really rethink. And that includes who you follow on social media. Like, are you following and dreaming, saying, oh, that looks so pretty. I would love to do something like that. Again, that is like the capitalism and commodification of spiritual practices. It is not how it is done. Every elder I have been blessed to study with, they don't go on social media with all these things and all, like, I look at some of these like ceremonial wheels and things, and I'm like, oh yeah, that would have taken me a week to put together. And they do a 60-second reel, and I'm like, how are they actually doing their work if they're spending so much time creating a look to garner attention? So we have to really rethink this. And this includes reeling in those who might be healers and psychics and spiritual folks in the community, like really sit and rethink this. This is some of the discernment, right? So one of the things that we're seeing is a lot of rising burnout. And let me remind you, that is by design. That is exactly what abusers do to their victims in family court. The rising burnout, the misinformation fatigue, energetic fragmentation, and the shadow flares showing up across all communities. Again, I'm going to go back to the stories of what I've seen for 20 years in family court with abusers and their victims. It's exactly the same play. I want you to get clear that everything you're seeing that's happening in the United States right now, if you're listening to this, to what's happening in the US, as well as some other rising right-wing things. And there's a lot of AI manipulation and blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But this is really to kind of facing those hard truths so we know how to move forward. This is what discernment has been trying to teach us in 2025. Okay. So this is also for you to really call in that level of awareness. And where are you? Are you showing up having these little tantrums? Are you feeling like, no matter how much rest I have, I am not rested? So we have done several, by more than any other times in my 20 years or so doing this work professionally, a lot of energy forecasts, including the election back in July of last year. And I just want to do a check-in So we say what we predicted and what happened and what maybe didn't happen. So we know where we're at midway through 2025. And, we call this the year of discernment. And it's so interesting how a lot of people are starting to use that word, discernment, and how are we showing up with discernment. One of the things that we called in and projected last year was that our President Trump would have a health crisis, if not a passing, in July of 2025. July isn't over. I'm recording this before this comes out in July. So it is July 23rd as we record. So by the time this airs, we don't know what's going to happen. But we did say that there was going to be something with Trump's health major in July of 2025. We also said that there was going to be a push for the change of presidency in July of 2025, and whether or not there was a question of whether or not Trump would no longer be in office by the end of July. Then we also felt the need, as like this big change started to happen, the need to align this duality, this dualistic thing of what is happening with the need to be more aligned with the natural world that is increasing. But then we also have the polarizing aspects of the harm that AI and all Meta and all these other companies are using that are actually harming the environment and creating the type of pollution we have never seen since the age of innovation in the 1800s. And so this is the balance, like just like my neighbor, right? Like it doesn't mean you don't have a house, but are you using automatic water sprinklers? Are you using pesticides? Are you using herbicides? How are you aligning? Are you getting mad that wildlife is in your backyard? Like these are the things that we really need to get more rooted in. And the messages from our ancestors, the nature spirits, are just getting louder. And I want to ask you, are you listening? Are you listening to their voices versus the chatter that's in your head and the external noise that's trying to drive a message for a certain agenda, right? We also have this yearning for the need for a deep remembering of the ways of our own ancestors, right? And the need to be in alignment with the natural world, the reclamation of the wise ones, of the blood and bone of those who lived before us that are flowing in our veins. This also includes the warriors who fought against systems of oppression. Their knowledge and wisdom are flowing in our veins. Are you stopping and pausing and listening and connecting to that? Some of the other things that we said were going to happen in 2025, this is the year of the snake. So to be honest with you, I used to be terrified of snakes. Okay. And I sit here and I question, is that because like when I look at why that was, is that because of 10 years of my Catholic school upbringing telling me that the snake was the devil and having that hounded over and over and over again? So I started assuming that the snake was a bad thing, right? But in ancient times, before the three main religions came about, when all of our ancestors, regardless of culture, had and were connected to the natural world, the spirit world, the snake was represented as a goddess, as a feminine sovereignty, and as of healing. And what we are doing in 2025 is we are shedding our skins and accessing that embodied wisdom. That wisdom, it's like that's crawling in our veins, asking for us and pleading for us that we are all here, incarnated at this time to do this work. We are here to bear witness of this great change. We are here to be catalysts. We are here to be the truth bearers, the warriors, the healers, those that are reclaiming the ways of the old that we haven't seen again, like I said, in well over 2,000 years. So here are some questions I really want to ask you. What have we discerned so far? What illusions have cracked you open and be like, oh my effing God, like, how did I not see this? And we're starting to see with some of the people that were MAGA that voted, and we're starting to see videos saying, I am sorry, I didn't know, I didn't see all these things. These people are being cracked open. So please understand and that they're being cracked open. We need to bring them in and help them align. Okay. We also want to ask, what's being asked to be released? Is it judgment? Is it the need to control? Is it what is it that needs to be released? Is it the old stories? Is it the fear of not being seen? What is it that needs to be released? And what I would invite you to do is to reflect on, like, are you choosing from a place of fear or a place of soul? Because your soul knows better than you. So that's why I have a t-shirt and I have mugs that say, your soul knows better than you, so get the fuck out of the way. Because fear is the root to anger, illness. It's rooted to turning your power over. You are in your full power when you are in an embodied truth of who you really are, not what you have been conditioned or told to be. And the problem with not pausing is that all this trauma, all these stories, right? All this stress removes our ability to discern, to see the truth, to make a proper informed decision. It is reaction versus response. The pause is the sacred in between. When we don't pause, we repeat those story loops, we repeat the trauma loops, we confuse ego with intuition. We become the helper stuck in saviorism or burnout or martyrdom. So I want to ask you, what's fueling your action? Love, truth, like embodied truth, not like what you think truth is, or your survival self? What is fueling your action? So there's a framework that I use with my clients. I use it in groups, and it's the sacred pause framework. I call it the stop, pause, breathe. What's the action step, right? So whenever you're triggered by something or something gets really amplified for you and you don't know what to do, I always say you have to stop. That's the recognition. That's the awareness piece. Recognize the pattern, interrupt it with that sense of awareness. When we do that, we disrupt the pattern. We take that pause. We step into the liminal. Ask, whose energy is this? What is this really about? The pause creates the space to do and to build that sense of awareness. It's kind of like being in the eye of the hurricane, where we say, master the calm within the storm, right? When you're in the eye of the hurricane, you get to see all the devastation around you. But when you're in that eye, you are fully at peace and you can see clearly to know what decisions you can make. Versus if you're at that edge, you can't see because everything is swirling around you and you get all frantic and blah, 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 blah. You can't do it. So when we take the sacred pause, we are owning that center. We are owning that energy. We are taking our power back. And then we take some breaths. I like the 4-7-8 to regulate your nervous system. Connect with the ancestors, connect with the earth, connect with the spirit. If you can, go stick your feet out on the grass or in the water or touch a tree, whatever that might be. And when we breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and exhale out for 8, we shift that nervous system and we shift that pattern. And it helps amplify that space. So we keep staying and holding that pause, and we keep using that breath for that inquiry until we know what's that action step. We move now with clarity, with intention, and not urgency, not from a place of reaction, hypervigilance, dysregulation. We do this from a place that is trauma informed, nervous system healing, ancestral regulation, and a sovereign response. So let's just take a moment and just put our hands on our heart and a hand on our belly. And in the Celtic traditions, we have 3 cauldrons, 3 energy centers, and we're just going to connect them. So we're going to stop and we're going to pause for a moment. And we're going to connect in that pause between the 3 energy centers. And we're going to breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, hold for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale out for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. And hold for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And exhale out for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep repeating that until you feel the calm. Also take notice if when you do this exercise and you find that you can't or the breaths are shallow, that's really giving you an indication to really actually probably do it more, to really practice that sacred pause more, that your body needs some help and guidance, because when the body's not regulated, you can't possibly respond in an effective manner. And how you can take this and how this is beneficial is it helps you in navigating the online spaces with discernment with this practice. It helps you in when you're in triggered states or in conflict, in personal relationships. We can step outside the room or just maybe say, I have to come back. I'll call you right back, whatever that is, so you can take that sacred pause. You can create that space so you can have discernment and know what's the action step. When it comes to parenting, pausing helps with that attachment with your children instead of reacting. There's a lot of studies on attachment disorders as well as trauma that starts in infants, just by simple things of how they are witnessing our energy and whether or not we're paying attention from a place of calm, centered, and a grounded state, versus if we are coming from a very anxious, stressed state. That also affects the nervous system development of the babies up to 6 months to a year old. There are studies on this. Okay. When it comes to election season, it is resisting. The sacred pause can help you resist that urgency and that need for division. And it can also help in your own healing work. It will show you, because when you stop, pause, breathe, what's the action step? You're doing that self-inquiry. You're looking at and you're creating that space. You're listening to the body's rhythm. You're paying attention to how it's communicating with you. And in healing, it will show you when to act and when to rest. The sacred pause is not passive. It is where your soul speaks the clearest. We are a society of now, 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 go, 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 to the point of, and this is what corporations and capitalist, patriarchal, colonized structures have conditioned us to be. So here are some questions I want you to think about as we begin to take in all this information. I want you to ask, first of all, are you exhausted after rest? And if you are, why are you exhausted after rest? Like I know from me, I led a pilgrimage to Ireland while all this stuff was going on. We started in February and we actually went to the motherland in June. And at the same time, I got married 8 days after I returned. And so there was a lot of big things, both personally, professionally, as well as what is happening around me on this land, while also integrating. So I actually spent a lot of times, I spent like 5 days sleeping a lot. And I'm just now, it's been 6 weeks after, and we're getting ready to meet for the integration piece to close out this year's pilgrimage. And I feel like I'm just at a point where my body is returning. So you want to ask yourself, why am I still exhausted after rest? So for me, the answer is it's because we transmuted and alchemized a lot, both personally, professionally, in the spirit world, and the ancestral world. There was a lot to hold, a lot of space tending to hold 24 hours a day while others were moving through their stuff and holding that space. And so my body was like, okay, we needed some time to reboot. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been taking a slower July and moving through and allowing my body what it needs. So another question for you too, and these would be good journal questions for you too. Pull out your journal. What version of me is making that decision? Is it that whisper from the soul, that all knowing? Or is it coming from a place of my wounds, that generational wound, that personal wound, that ancestral wound? So, what version of me is making the decision? What am I trying to fix, save, or control, and why? So, like, we see all this disharmony happening. We see people that are being kidnapped, right? Rights being denied, people just disappearing, children disappearing, and they're not even going into detention centers by a regime, right? That is connected to the largest sex trafficking ring in the world. So, are we trying to fix that? I've always said we have to start with our own temple. We have to start with that and then move out before we can fix the bigger. And if each one of us tends to our temple, tends to our own inner communities and those that are around us, then together we come together, because together we are stronger. So, what am I trying to fix or control, and why? And then finally, what truth can only come through silence and stillness? Sometimes we think that we're being silenced is a bad thing. Like if an abuser silences, that's different. But if we're doing it by our own choice, it's because we are going into deep listening. We're going into a realm where we can hear the whispers of our ancestors that are flowing through our veins, the whispers of the nature spirits, our guides, those that are healed and whole. And through that silence and stillness, we can hear clearer. And when we do it in the darkness, we see clearer. So here's an invitation for you. The invitation is to practice one sacred pause per day. Use your journal to track and integrate the shifts. And I have an announcement of something I'm working on. I am actually working on a sacred alchemist journal. I'm not sure when it will be done. Again, I'm working and weaving my own. I'm working at the space of spirit, not in the capitalist structure. So I will announce when that is available. But right now, just journal and track and how are you integrating these shifts. Maybe even write down some questions that you have, some reflective questions of your own. And invite listeners to share their pause stories via email or on social media. What are some of your pause stories? I would like to know in the comments below if you can. Like, I would love to hear from you. Share them in the comments below, wherever you are listening. I would love to know. And what I'm going to do now is I am actually live while recording, going to pull 3 cards that are going to be some of the energy cards for August. Okay. So we have the 8 of Swords. So what this is showing is that a lot of us might feel trapped. A lot of us might feel, again, kind of what we just talked about, right? She is trapped, she's tied, but yet she's blindfolded and she doesn't realize how close she is. It seems to be a repeating theme here. I just did a live on this, and this card showed up too, where, you know, all those things that we're trying to break free from, we are so close. We don't even realize how close we are. And it's literally just an arm's reach, whether it is somebody else coming by and grabbing a sword and breaking us free, or whether or not we get creative enough and we break ourselves free. We are closer than we think. The second card is the Knight of Cups. When we invite play, and that means, like, this is why, like, a lot of even people that do like war strategy and all these things, they play chess. I'm not saying chess, but I mean, like, invite play, whether it's painting, journaling, sitting on a swing set, whatever it is, invite play to help you move through those emotions that you're struggling with. Gratitude in the lineage of Reiki, you know, there's Kyo Dakiwa. Kyo Dakiwa means just for today. That's mastering the pause. Okay. And then there's Ikaruna Shinpaisuna. That is anger and worry. Just for today, do not, anger not, worry not. Because back then, they realized, the Japanese indigenous culture knew that anger and worry were the root to disharmony, to ill health, all those things, because they were lower vibrations. And the antidote was gratitude. When we come from a place of gratitude with non-attachments, and I talk about this all the time, and I wrote a whole book on this called The Secrets to Healing. You can find it on Amazon. And where gratitude was very difficult, because we're taught, I'm grateful for my wife, I'm grateful for my house, I'm grateful for my dog, I'm grateful for my, all these things. But those are attachments. It is, how do we be grateful with no attachment, right? That's the antidote, because that's a higher vibration. And then it's Gyo Hagame. Gyo Hagame is do your duties fully. So it's everything that we talked about. So if you really are saying like you want to be in harmony with nature, how are you living in it? Whether you're in an apartment or you're in a house or you're in the rural community, wherever you are, it is how are you living in harmony? Are you buying food that is highly processed? Are you buying other things that are toxic chemicals? Are you looking at the containers that you use? So it's how are you being in proper relationship with the earth? This is also what the sacred pause can teach us. And then the final one is Itsoni Shinsetsuni, or depending on the dialect, Shoni Shinsetsuni, which is be kind to others. We can't be kind to others if we come from a dysregulated system and we're not doing our own duties. We're not being the student of our own preaching. And so those are the 5 principles. Again, I wrote a whole book on this. I have 9 case studies. I talk about the healthcare system in the United States. And I talk about how these 5 sentences, by the way, also are used to, in the Reiki system, but are also used to help with healing from chronic illness and trauma. It's what's helped me over the last 20 years. And in Japanese, it goes all together, as we're going to close out here, sort of. Kyodaki wa ikaruna shinpai suna kancha shite gyo hagame shitoni shinsetsu ni. And just remember discernment, embodied wisdom, and honoring the sacred pause as a revolutionary act. May the breath bring you home. May the pause restore your power. And may the next step be led by truth. And if you liked what you heard today, let me know in the comments. Share this. This is a non-commercialized podcast. We do not have sponsors. So this is really community driven. Please share this with your community. Please leave comments. It is really helpful for engagement. And until next time on the podcast of Triggers and Spiritual Medicine, have a great day and remember to pause. Thank you for tuning in to Triggers and Spiritual Medicine. We hope today's episode provided insights and action steps to support you on your personal journey. Remember, healing is a continuous process, and by addressing what triggers us, we create space for deeper transformation. If you would like to dive deeper into our community and support our sacred activist work, join us on Patreon, where you'll find more resources and insider content to empower your healing path. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. And please share, like, and engage with us to help boost our algorithm status. Since this is a community-driven podcast, your support truly makes a difference in helping us reach more souls who can benefit from this journey. Stay connected, stay mindful, and keep doing the inner work. Together, we are building a community that uplifts and heals. And until next time, stay grounded and take care of your soul.